I'm not angry. I just finished the scene.
I'm Marcus, 37, work as a risk analyst in Seattle. I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting about relationship drama on Reddit, but here we are. I got home about an hour before my usual time because our quarterly review wrapped up faster than expected. The sky was still bright, that weird Seattle summer evening where it stays light forever. I grabbed my laptop bag and keys, unlocked the front door expecting to find my wife cooking or watching TV. Instead, the house was quiet, except for voices coming from the living room. Not the TV, though. It was her phone on speaker. I set my keys down carefully on the entry table and just stood there listening. Years of analyzing risk reports taught me to pause and gather information before reacting. From where I stood in the hallway, I could see the glow of her phone screen, but not her face. The first thing I heard told me everything I needed to know. One of her friends was saying, "Just tell him you're not sure you're happy anymore. See how he reacts." Another voice chimed in, all excited like she was narrating a reality show. "Make it serious, though. No crying. He needs to actually feel worried." Then a third voice laughed and said, "Men only appreciate what they have when they think they're losing it." I've heard variations of that garbage before, usually at bars after work when someone's bragging about playing mind games with their partner. But hearing it in my own living room, with my wife on the receiving end of this coaching session, hit different. I stayed quiet and listened to the whole thing unfold. My wife asked questions, sounded uncertain at first, like she was testing the waters. Then her friends walked her through the entire script. Start with, "I've been thinking." Move to, "I need space." End with, "Maybe we should take a break to figure things out." They even told her to hold eye contact for 3 seconds, so I'd understand how serious she was. It was like watching a play being rehearsed, except the stage was my marriage, and I was supposed to be the unsuspecting audience member. Here's the thing. I'd noticed stuff had been off lately. New passwords on apps that used to stay logged in. Late nights that always turned into girl talk when I asked. The group chat constantly buzzing through dinner while I tried to tell her about my day. I'd noticed all of it, but hadn't wanted to jump to conclusions. Hearing this rehearsal session removed any remaining doubt. I didn't storm in. I backed up quietly, went outside, waited a minute, then came back in and let my keys drop loudly in the bowl like I'd just arrived. The phone call ended so fast you'd think her phone caught fire. She jumped up from the couch with this big smile that came just a beat too late to look natural. I kissed her cheek like always, asked about her day. She said meetings, headache, nothing special. Just a normal Thursday in a normal marriage, right? I nodded and went upstairs to wash my hands. Standing at the sink watching water run over my fingers, I felt this weird calm settle over me. I wasn't angry. Anger is messy and clouds your judgment. What I felt was more like when you're working on a complicated spreadsheet and suddenly all the numbers line up, and you realize the answer was there all along. We ate takeout on the back deck. She scrolled on her phone while I talked. I mentioned this weekend hiking trip we've been planning for months. She said she might have plans with friends. The same friends who just coached her through fake dumping me. I filed that information away. When she went inside for napkins, I opened my phone and logged her out of all our shared streaming accounts. Not out of spite, just creating clear boundaries. Boundaries aren't dramatic speeches, they're quiet decisions. After dinner, she planted herself on the couch, half watching some show we used to watch together. Her phone kept going face down, then face up, then face down again. I sat across from her and asked a simple question. "You okay?" She looked at me like I'd interrupted something important and said she was tired. Tired meant no conversation, no closeness, no truth. I said okay and went to my home office. I've got this framed map of the Pacific Northwest above my desk, all the hiking trails we'd talked about doing together. I took it down and pulled out the small, fireproof safe from behind it. Inside were our important documents, passports, insurance stuff, deed to the house. I'd started keeping a list of our accounts a few months back when things started feeling unstable. I added 2 items to my list. Reserve a hotel room downtown and contact that family attorney my coworker had recommended. Around 10, she came to the doorway and asked if I'd be up late. I said I had some emails to finish. She gave me this look, half testing, half measuring, trying to read whether I'd panic at the hint of distance. I smiled the same way I smile at clients who try to argue with data. I told her not to wait up. I didn't actually have emails to finish, but I did update my emergency contact list. My brother's number moved above hers. Small change, but it meant something. When I finally got to bed, I lay there replaying what I'd overheard. Not the specific words so much as the intent behind them. She wanted to run an experiment. Her friends wanted entertainment. I pictured the scene they'd written and felt completely prepared. If she followed their script, I knew exactly how I'd respond. Before falling asleep, I took off my wedding ring, looked at it for a minute, then put it back on. Not symbolic, just practical. If you're going to wear something, wear it intentionally. Morning came with normal routines. Coffee, local news talking about traffic on I-5, the usual. She wore this nice blouse I hadn't seen in a while. I told her she looked good. She said there was a team lunch. I watched her search my face for anxiety and find nothing. I kissed her forehead and headed out for my morning run. 3 miles, no music, just the sound of my breath and shoes hitting pavement. At the turnaround point, I stopped and looked back at the city skyline and smiled, because I understood what had really changed. Nothing about my value required testing. By the time I showered and left for work, my day had the structure I trust. She texted a heart emoji. I replied with a thumbs up. We'd never used that shorthand before. It felt right now. Driving downtown, I mentally reviewed our life like I would a client portfolio. Assets, liabilities, risk tolerance. Respect sat at the top as non-negotiable. My phone buzzed with a calendar alert I'd set the night before. Tonight, be present. Not for her, for me. If the performance started after dinner, I'd meet it with the same calm I brought to everything important. She chose the moment right after dinner, when the light was fading. Plates still on the table, TV off in the next room. She sat with her hands folded like she'd practiced, shoulders square. I set down my napkin and waited. She took a deeper breath than normal, held my eyes for exactly 3 beats like her friends had instructed, and said, I've been thinking. The cadence was almost perfect. About us. About whether I'm happy. I didn't rescue her with questions. Silence is where truth shows itself. She filled it with the rest of their script. I need space. Time to figure out who I am outside this. Maybe a break would be healthy. Healthy. A word that sounds caring but functions as distance. I took a sip of water and set the glass down precisely. I hear you, I said, keeping my tone even. What does space mean to you, in practical terms? Scripts don't usually include logistics. She blinked. Just less pressure. Some nights to myself. Maybe a weekend with the girls. I don't know yet. She was searching my face for panic, pleading, anything she could use as proof. Instead, I nodded. Are you asking for a separation or an evaluation period? Those are different structures. Shimmer blinked at the word structures. Then her phone lit up face down on the table. A soft, muffled laugh leaked from the microphone. Someone who thought they were muted. She slid her hand over the phone fast, like covering a candle flame. The audience was here even though I was pretending not to notice. I'm not trying to blow anything up, she said quickly, leaning forward. I just need to know you'll fight for me, that you still care. I care, I said. Fighting requires an opponent. Are you planning to be one? That created some breathing room. She sat back, eyes flicking to her shadowed phone and back to me. You've been distant, always working, always controlled. I don't feel chosen. I could have unpacked months of her late arrivals and new passwords and the group chat buzzing through every meal. I could have built a whole case. I didn't. What would make you feel chosen? I asked. She opened her mouth and closed it. From the phone, someone whispered, He's not saying anything. Another voice, sharper. Push the separation. A third giggled and shushed the others. I think we should take a break, she said, choosing the bolder script line. A week, maybe more, so I can think clearly. Clear thinking is good, I said. During this break, do you want access to our joint accounts? Her head tilted. Why would that change? When the status changes, the structure changes, I answered calmly. We can set a budget for shared expenses and pause discretionary spending until we decide what this is. She hadn't rehearsed that part. That sounds transactional. So does break, I said, not unkindly. Words have costs. She looked down at her lap. The camera lens on her phone was aimed at the ceiling. Perfect angle on both of us if someone wanted video. I wrapped my hand around my glass and waited. Are you going to ask if there's someone else? She blurted. There it was, the line they'd hoped would set me off. If there is, I assume you'd tell me now, I said. If there isn't, the question doesn't help either of us. She deflated, robbed of the scene she'd been promised. You're not even upset? I'm not theatrical, I said. I'm listening. She stood, restless, carried her plate to the sink and ran water like it could change the subject. I followed with my plate, rinsed it, loaded the dishwasher. Small, normal movements, keeping things steady. When we sat again, her breathing had quickened. The phone pulsed with another message, another note from the balcony seats. Okay, she said, voice brittle bright. Let's call it a trial separation. Just for a week. No expectations, and we check in at the end. Add 2 rules, I said. No pretending to be single, and no announcing anything to friends or family until we talk together. Her eyes narrowed. Why the second one? Because if we're serious, we handle this privately, I said. If it's a performance, we can end it now. Something in her expression cracked. She reached for my hand, stopped halfway, let her fingers fall. I just wanted to know where I stand, she murmured. You stand where you choose to stand, I said. I won't hold you in place. Shipping, but it was Stadler, but it was stalling. So where will you go? For the week? Turbulence. I've arranged a place, I said. You can have the house. I'll send you the updated bill schedule tonight and an inventory of shared items I'm taking temporarily. Suitcase, laptop, gym bag. Nothing else. Already? The word slipped out. Planning ahead is part of my job, I said. It keeps surprises from becoming emergencies. I saw the thought cross her face. This wasn't the script. Denial, bargaining, emotional displays she could smooth over later. Calm acceptance gave her nothing to push against. The phone vibrated again. She ignored it, then couldn't. She flipped it over, thumbed a quick reply, set it face down. In the split second before the screen went dark, 3 small faces hovered in circles. They'd been there the whole time, watching the show. Can we talk more tomorrow? She asked quietly. I'm tired. Trembling. Tomorrow works, I said. 9 p.m. We'll each bring a written summary of what we want. Specifics. If we can't agree on terms, we'll agree on an exit. She swallowed. You talk like a lawyer. I talk like someone who respects clarity, I said. It's kinder than confusion. Resumption. We cleaned up together in near silence. Outside, I could hear wind chimes from a neighbor's yard, a sound I'd barely noticed in months. She hovered near me like she couldn't decide whether to hug me or dismiss me. In the end, she did neither. She went upstairs, careful steps on the risers. The phone glow followed her into the darkness. I stayed in the kitchen and wrote 3 bullet points on an index card. Finances during the week. Communication windows. No third-party narratives. I left it on the counter where we kept the coffee maker. When I finally turned off the lights, I stood at the base of the stairs and looked at my reflection in the dark living room window. Steady, unhurried, intact. She'd wanted to see how I'd react. I had reacted, actually. I'd given her exactly what she asked for. Space. What she didn't understand yet was that space always comes with conditions. Pressure either crushes you, or you learn to breathe in it. I came back the next night at 9 sharp, with the same overnight bag I'd left with. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and nerves. She'd set 2 glasses on the coffee table and a notepad, with nothing written on it. Her phone lay face down, the way you rest your hand on cards you're about to deal. I set my bag by the door and sat where she could see my face clearly. Thanks for coming back, she said carefully. I wrote some ideas. Great, I said. Me too. I held up a single page with my 3 bullet points expanded. Finances, communication windows, narrative control. Before I could speak, her phone trembled against the wood. She didn't look down, just slid a finger to silence it. A moment later, it did the same thing again. I watched her throat as she swallowed. I could have let it slide. Instead, I picked up the phone and set it screen up between us. 3 faces hovered in neat circles on a group video call. Mics live, cameras on. Her friends, arranged like a jury that forgot to close the door between chambers and courtroom. They were leaning forward, eyes bright with the kind of interest people reserve for free entertainment. "Evening," I said without raising my voice. "Since we're discussing our marriage, you should all be present, openly or not at all." Mips' cheeks went pale, then red. "It's not, they're just listening." "Right," I said. "Let's address that." I tapped the speaker icon and let the room fill with ambient noise from their side. Wall art, wine glasses, nervous coughs. One tried to smile and failed. Another reached to mute and missed. "I'm not here to argue," I continued, looking at my wife. "I'm here to correct the premise. You asked for a test. I don't take tests I didn't sign up for. If you needed to know whether I value you, you should have asked me directly. If you wanted a performance, you should have hired actors." Admire one spoke. Even the house felt like it was holding its breath. "Last night," I said, "I came home early. I heard the rehearsal. I heard the instructions about cadence and pauses and how long to hold eye contact. I heard the part about making me prove love by panicking. I understand the method. I reject the method." Reluctance. Her friends started talking at once, then stumbled over each other into silence. She pressed her hands together until her knuckles went white. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," she said quietly. "I just wanted to feel chosen." "You are chosen when you're here," I said, "not when you stage a crisis for an audience." I slid my paper across the table. "Here are the terms I think are fair if you truly want clarity. 1. Money. Joint account covers fixed obligations and groceries. All discretionary spending pauses. If you need something unusual, you ask. 2. Communication. 2 check-ins daily, 10 minutes each. No parsing tone by committee. 3. Narrative. We keep our situation between us until we decide what it is. That includes this call. Misled. If those terms feel harsh, there's another option. Terminated her eyes, not ready for it. Option 2 is honesty under daylight. We tell the truth right now. To them, to ourselves, to whoever asks. You can say you staged a fake breakup to see if I'd beg. I can say I won't. No villain, no saint. Just the cost of playing with something that should have been treated with respect. One of her friends found her voice through the speaker. "We were just trying to help." "Imprison. Then help by listening," I said calmly. "A test that requires humiliation isn't help. It's spectacle. And if you encouraged her to gamble our marriage for entertainment, that says more about your loneliness than my love." They recoiled like I'd physically struck them, though all I'd done was state facts. My wife stared at the notepad like words might appear if she waited long enough. She touched her ring, then took her hand away like the metal had heated up. "There's one more thing," I said. "I scheduled a consultation this week with a family attorney. Not a threat, a precaution. I'm prepared to use it if we discover that what you want isn't a break, but permission." Snapped up. "I didn't say that." Safeguards. "You didn't have to," I said. "You built a stage where it fits." I turned to the phone. "Ladies, I'm ending the call. What happens next is private, because I respect the institution you mocked." I pressed end. The room felt bigger without them, like someone had opened a window. She let out a breath that sounded like relief and regret twisted together. "I didn't think it through," she said. "I thought you'd, fight." "I did fight," I said. "Just not with volume. I fought for truth. Here it is. I will not be measured by my willingness to crawl. I'll be measured by how I carry myself when someone I love hands me a game instead of a hand." She nodded, eyes shining. "What do you want me to do?" "Decide," I said. "Do you want a week to think under the terms I proposed? Or do you want to call this what it is, a rupture, and move to separation with counsel? I'm capable of both. I'm not capable of pretending." She stood, paced, sat, pushed the phone farther away like it might bite. "I want the week," she said finally. "No audience, no tests." "Then we have a path," I said. I took off my ring, not for drama, just to look at it in the lamplight. During the week, this stays on because I'm still married, but I'll wear it like a promise to myself first. Respect is not a group project. Relinquish crumpled slightly, then pulled itself together. You're really not angry? I'm past anger, I said. Anger is for people who think they can still be convinced. I'm only interested in agreements. Defiance. I stood and picked up my overnight bag. She panicked at the movement until she saw I wasn't storming out. I'll be at the hotel, I said. You can have the house. I've paused the streaming accounts and set up bill autopay. If you need anything, text me during the windows we set. She reached for me, then stopped like a wire had pulled tight inside her. Marcus, I'm ashamed. That's between you and your standards, I said, not unkindly. Mine are clear. I walked to the door, paused, looked back. Not to twist the knife, but to leave things clean. You wanted to see how I'd react. This is it. I don't perform for tests. I set terms for relationships. Her eyes dropped. The room stayed quiet. I opened the door and let the night air in. It smelled like rain on hot pavement, the kind that reminds you storms can wash things clean if you let them. I stepped through, closed the door softly behind me, and felt the weight shift from my chest to my spine. Still heavy, but carried by muscles that knew what they were for. The first full day felt like a stress test, with variables finally labeled. I kept our 2 check-ins exactly as agreed. 10 minutes at noon, 10 at 8 p.m. At 9:07 a.m., she called anyway. I let it ring, then texted. We'll talk at noon. Boundaries aren't barbed wire. They're traffic lights. She called again at 9:12, then stopped. At noon, she opened soft but with agenda. Said she hadn't slept. The house felt too big. This was unfair. She didn't say the word apology. I listened, then asked if she had concrete requests within our terms. Groceries, she said. I transferred a set amount and sent a screenshot of the updated budget. She tried to pivot back to feelings. I didn't chase. 10 minutes ended when the timer did. She hated that timer. I loved it. It kept us both honest. By afternoon, consequences started arriving. One of her friends sent a long text that began with, "We were only trying to help," and ended with, "You humiliated her by putting us on speaker." I read it twice, replied with one sentence. "You humiliated her by needing an audience." An hour later, a different number messaged. Her friend's husband. Said he'd overheard the call and had no idea they'd been pushing that kind of nonsense. He apologized on behalf of his household. I told him I accepted it and had nothing to add. He sent a thumbs up and beer emoji like we were neighbors who'd finally trimmed a shared hedge. At 6:45, she showed up at the hotel unannounced. Hair done, dress that wasn't for errands. She texted from the lobby, then called immediately. I went down because hiding isn't strength. She stood by the velvet ropes holding a paper bag. Cookies from that bakery on Capitol Hill we used to line up for. Old Gateway. Nostalgia is solvent. I thanked her and set the bag on a side table without opening it. She reached for my arm. I stepped half a foot to the side. Not dramatic, just precise. "We're inside the window," I said. "Do you want to use the time to talk specifics?" Her eyes glossed fast, then cleared. She put her palm on my chest like proximity could rewrite terms. When I didn't close the gap, she dropped her hand and tried guilt. "You made me look small in front of them." "No," I said. "You invited them. You did that." Quiet did the work my tone didn't need to do. She tried blame next. "You've been cold for months." "Maybe I was," I said. "Cold is not dishonest. Tests are." Then came panic. The rapid-fire problem-solving people do when they sense the floor moving. "Counseling," she said. "Right now, tonight. There's a place near here that takes walk-ins." I told her I'd agree to counseling on one condition. She would open the session with one sentence. I staged a fake breakup to see if he'd beg. And we would not move to any other topic until the counselor repeated it back, and she agreed those words were accurate. She blinked like I'd flashed a light in her eyes. Said she needed to think. That was the first honest sentence of the evening. At 8 o'clock, our timer ended. She asked for a few more minutes. I shook my head. She hated that more than anything. I walked her to the door. She leaned in for a hug. I offered a handshake. She stared at my hand like it was a joke I shouldn't have told, then took it and turned away. The cookies stayed on the table until a hotel staffer asked if they were mine. I said they weren't. Next morning, my brother texted that he'd stopped by the house to pick up boxes I'd listed for him. Said the neighbor across the street asked if we were moving. He told her we were reorganizing. That was accurate. Reorganization is correction, not collapse. By midday, the friend circle had begun to fracture. Screenshots landed in my phone from two directions. Hers, angrily asking if I'd told anyone else. I hadn't. And one friend apologizing while admitting another friend had recorded part of the conversation because it was wild. Recording. That word drained whatever sympathy I had left. When my wife accused me of leaking, I replied, "We agreed on narrative control. The leaks are coming from your side." She sent typing dots, then nothing. Money made itself known next. A charge attempt pinged our joint account for a spa package, declined per the paused budget. She texted a photo of the decline, asking if I was really going to nickel and dime her while she was heartbroken. I typed back that grief spends time, not money. If she wanted exceptions, she could list them at 8. At 8, she didn't. That was information. That night, she sent a voice note instead of text. Tears in the edges, breathy pauses, suggestions of danger. "I haven't eaten. I can't stop shaking. I need you." I listened twice, then replied inside the window with 3 lines. "Eat something simple. Call your sister if you feel unsafe, or 911. She wrote back one word. Wow. As if care without surrender were cruelty. I set my phone face down and slept through till morning for the first time in weeks. Day 3. The apology finally arrived like a storm that ran out of land. It wasn't the kind that asks to be praised. It was flat, exact. I staged it. I wanted drama. I embarrassed myself. I'm sorry. I ate twice, felt my shoulders loosen one notch. I wrote, "Thank you. We'll still meet with a counselor. Same opening sentence requirement." She agreed. By then, the friend group had gone quiet. One had been blocked by her husband after he discovered the recording. Another deleted her account for a detox. The third posted a meme about choosing yourself that got 2 likes and a comment from an aunt. The universe does its own math. The last attempt came that evening. She texted that she was outside the hotel and wanted to come up. No talking, just us. I stood in the lobby and looked through the glass at her waiting under the street lamp. We could have made a beautiful mistake right there and called it healing. I texted instead, "Clarity first, closeness later, if at all." She didn't move for a full minute. Then she drove away. By the end of the week, pressure had done what pressure does when handled right. Her friends had scattered. Her parents were informed without my editorial. Her appetite for games had soured in her own mouth. I hadn't chased, lectured, or pleaded. I'd made space and refused to decorate it for her comfort. The timer on my phone kept doing its quiet work. The ring on my finger stayed where it was, cool and honest. Her game hadn't just failed. It had collapsed under the weight of being seen. And I remained exactly where I meant to stand. Present, calm, unreachable to manipulation, reachable to truth. The morning after the week ended felt like a verdict being read. No tremor in my hands, just clean quiet that comes after you stop pretending. I gave myself a simple list. Call the attorney I'd already met once months ago when the first weird lie started. Photograph the house and accounts. Cancel the joint card, leaving enough for shared commitments. I sent her a note at 9:02 a.m. I'll be moving to the guest room until this is resolved. If you need something, email. No speeches, no midnight debates. My boundary had to be quiet enough to hear myself breathe. By noon, her friends started circling. One wrote a performative apology for how messy yesterday got, casually ignoring they'd engineered the mess. Another tried the soft landing. She's scared of losing you. Testing is a cry for reassurance. I answered each with the same sentence. I don't participate in tests. The replies dwindled as they do when the show doesn't go on. She called. I let it ring and replied with 3 bullet facts by email. I'll handle utilities. You handle your car and subscriptions. I'll propose fair furniture split. I've scheduled separation consultation. She wrote back that involving a lawyer this fast was escalating. I stared at that word. Escalation is secret rehearsals and staged heartbreak. Boundaries are housekeeping. Her father called that evening. We'd never been close, but he spoke like a man who'd watched the playback and recognized the angles. Do what you need to do, son. No rescue or pleading. Just permission I didn't ask for, but appreciated. The days that followed were strangely light. I slept deeply for the first time in months. Woke without checking a stranger's weather report in her face. I boxed wedding photos, not angrily, just to stop tripping over them. I moved emergency contacts from her name to my brother's. I updated passwords because closure wears belt and suspenders. She reached for old levers. Regret, nostalgia, the list of cute Sundays we survived together. I listened and kept my tone even, then told her the thing that finally steadied me. I'm not punishing you. I'm honoring me. I watched it land. No insult, just simple reality that love without respect is a costume. And I was done acting. The lawyer moved quickly because there wasn't much to fight over once you remove performance. No kids, a house with clean equity, 2 cars, accounts. My proposal was bland on purpose. Split the sale, each takes their car, each keeps their retirement. We both walk with names intact. She wanted to keep the house, so we can revisit us later. I shook my head. Later is where people stash denial. Later is how you keep bleeding. The fallout arrived in quiet increments. 2 of her friends stopped posting photos with her. Apparently the brunch crowd doesn't like mirrors. One sent a private message. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. Then never wrote again. There was a moment when she tried the door from the other side. Thursday night. Rain on the porch. Her voice softer than it had been in months. Can we reset? No more tests. Unborn. I let the rain fill the space between us and measured the proposition against the man I wanted to be. Reset means pretending the event didn't happen. Forgiveness isn't pretending. Forgiveness is clarity without access. I wished her well and closed the door gently. She cried. I didn't gloat. Sometimes growth looks exactly like not chasing the sound of your name being said through tears. The sale closed fast. Paperwork has a way of turning the loudest story into signatures. We stood in separate rooms at the title office and left by separate exits. I drove to a small apartment I'd already painted on a Saturday morning while listening to a game. I assembled a bed I chose, hung a framed blueprint I'd sketched in college, put my running shoes by the door like a promise. There's freedom in arranging a life only for people who actually live it. In the weeks after, I built new rituals that didn't broadcast themselves to anyone. Early runs, weekly dinner with my brother, the book I'd abandoned last winter because explaining myself took all my words. I noticed an old habit where I explained even my coffee choice in case someone took it personally. Finally left my body in its rightful place. I will not be studied for your conclusions. Months later, I saw her across a farmer's market, laughing too loudly at a joke that wasn't funny. She noticed me, hesitated, offered a wave that asked a question without words. I nodded once. Not cruel, just true. She looked away first. I felt nothing rise up to argue with my decision. No what-ifs, just steady recognition that you can love who you were with someone and still decline who they chose to be. Here's what I learned. Respect isn't a demand I make from others. It's the condition I set for my own behavior. When someone tests your worth, the answer isn't performing harder. It's walking away with your dignity intact. I didn't react by begging or fighting or proving anything. I reacted by leaving the stage, turning off the lights, and locking the door behind my self-respect. That's the end of it. And honestly, it was the beginning.